One of the things I always want to know about somebody is the questions they live with. What are the ones that you don't know how to answer? The wondering, where the confusion is that can become clarity, but isn't yet. That's that edge I'm listening for a lot. And I want to thank you all for your courage. The courage to hold, to live with your questions honestly, sincerely, not to rush into premature answers, premature clarity, because that can short-circuit the growth process, the learning process by which you can really manifest your dreams, really realize your essence. And the courage also, I want to thank you for the courage that it takes to question deeply the assumptions of a culture that are so misguided, that are so out of balance, that are so completely insane, honestly. Because questioning them deeply, questioning them sincerely, and then living authentically to that sincerity, living in integrity with what you feel and think and know and dream and aspire for and cherish and care about, so that your compassion, your caring becomes the way that you live, rather than just your thoughts. Something about our culture has taught us that our intelligence lies only in our ability to analyze, to predict, mentally dominate. And there are so many other kinds of intelligences, plural, that we have. Empathy is a form of intelligence. Music is a form of intelligence. Creativity. Imagination. The ability to question is an intelligence. And I don't mean just skeptically. That's one form. Doubting. That's one form of questioning. But there are other kinds of questioning that don't preclude that which isn't, you can't measure in a test tube, that which you can't analyze and detect clearly with your senses and measure it. There are other forms of reality and other forms of accessing those realities besides that part of our mind that we're trained to identify with. So I'm appreciating all of us who are learning to use the fullness of our brain power to be alive, because it's going to take that. That's what it's going to take. And when it comes to food and health, it's hard almost to imagine a society more askew than our own. The food environment is so toxic and confused. I mean, most people, when they think about what they're going to eat, there's three considerations: taste, convenience, and expense. And if that's your tripod, if that's the three-legged stool on which you sit for your meals, McDonald's has got you. Because their food is very tasty, it's very convenient, they're everywhere, you don't have to do anything, you just show up there. And they've made it relatively inexpensive. Of course, they do that by externalizing tremendous numbers of costs onto the environment, onto your health care, onto your weight, everywhere. It's not really cheap. But it seems so. It seems convenient. And yet, what are there, if we ask, why are we eating anyway? Is it just to indulge this moment's convenience? Just to be a creature of habits that we picked up? We pick up habits all kinds of ways. So in fact, I just want to parenthetically ask you a question that's been on my mind. It's about reincarnation. Is it true, or is that just some stupid idea I picked up in a past life? We pick up thoughts, we pick up feelings, we pick up habits, and then we tend to play them out. A lot of us well, I would change the way I ate, except my parents have expectations. I don't want to create problems at home. My mother, she would think I was saying she did something wrong. She didn't feed us right. She's not going to like that. Do you have that issue ever? I certainly did. That was my mother, I got to tell you, bless her heart, but she was entrenched, as was my dad, understandably, given who he was, what he did. When my uncle, Bert Baskin, my dad's brother-in-law and partner, died of a heart attack at the age of 54, I asked my dad, do you think, and my uncle was a very big man, and he ate a lot of ice cream. And I asked my dad, do you think there could be a connection between the amount of ice cream that he would eat and his fatal heart attack? And my father said, absolutely not. His ticker just got tired and stopped working. And you know, every family it has no talk rules, you know, taboos. The elephant in the living room that isn't mentioned can't be mentioned. Well, in my family, that was it. And you could understand why. I could understand. My dad, by that time in his life, had manufactured and sold more ice cream than any human being who had ever lived on this planet. He didn't want to think that the family product was harming anybody, much less that it might have contributed to the death of his beloved brother-in-law and business partner, my uncle. He could not consider that possibility, but I could. And perhaps because he couldn't, I felt ethically obligated to do so, some kind of balancing. I'm not sure about that, but I do know that I felt very deeply, passionately committed to questioning that, to living with that question. Even though, of course, it didn't reflect well on the family product. And not too long after that, I made a decision, and my dad had been grooming me to succeed him. I'm an only son. And he was an old-fashioned guy. He was a patriarch. He had it that women shouldn't work. They should be taken care of by their husbands. I almost said owned by their husbands, but that would have been a Freudian slip. I think that was the mentality anyway. You know it. It's that old thing. And women shouldn't work. So my sisters weren't, in his mind, part of the package to take over the company. It was all on me. The full weight of his expectations was here. And growing up, I kind of liked it. I loved ice cream. I ate so many. When I tell people now that I don't eat ice cream, sometimes they look at me like they're feeling sorry for me. And I say, please don't. I ate enough ice cream as a kid for 20 lifetimes. And besides, there are now so many wonderful non-dairy frozen desserts. I am not deprived. I feel way better. It's fine. But people get attached to their pleasures and don't want to give them up, and even if they're killing you. So that's one of the reasons I acknowledge your courage, because to question these things that we get attached to and look to see, does this really serve the purposes for which I have taken birth? Does this really serve? Does it fuel my body in a way, in my cells in a way that's consistent with my life clarity, with the groundedness of my being in who I am? That's authenticity. Does it fuel your joy? Are you really thriving? Does it give you the quality of energy and the clarity of mind and the peace of heart that you need and deserve in order to give your gifts and receive the love and gifts of other people? Live fully. So I came to the conclusion that I didn't want to follow in my dad's footsteps. I didn't want to sell ice cream. I didn't want to even eat it anymore, actually. And I had a lot of conversations with my dad that didn't go anywhere. And finally, I just told him, well, look, we live in a different world than when you grew up. I do anyway. And at any moment, the unspeakable could happen. We live under a nuclear shadow. The environment is deteriorating rapidly under the impact of human activities. The wealth of the nation, of the world, is concentrating increasingly in the hands of fewer and fewer people, which does not betoken social stability. There are crimes against nature that are highly profitable, and the people that are perpetrating them are seen as the pillars of society. Under these circumstances, I said to him, can you see that for me, feeling the way I do, inventing a 30-second flavor would just not be an adequate response for my life? And he said, what are you talking about? And I said, Dad, I'm not going to do it. I'm going a different direction. And I made that choice. And I felt to be ethically consistent, I needed also to not have any dependence whatsoever, any reliance or access to his fortune. And so I walked away from all of that. And with my wife, we've now been together 44 years. She and I moved to a little island off the coast of British Columbia, built a very small cabin, one room, where we lived for the next 10 years. Our son was born there into my hands. We grew most of our food, almost all of it for 5 years, and most of it for the other 5. And our effort was to really weave ourselves back into the natural world. Listen to the cycles of the seasons, feel the rhythms of life in our relationship, in our bodies, in our minds, in our connections to spirit, in our connections to the natural world. And to learn to do that, not distracted by commercial culture, consumer culture. Now, it was also helpful to us to be away from consumer culture because we couldn't consume that stuff anyway. We had no money. We had very, very little. We lived some years on $500 a year. And we worked really hard growing your food. If you haven't ever done it, which we hadn't, it's really hard. And we made a lot of stupid mistakes because we were beginners, but we kept at it. Dealing with adversity is hard sometimes. I don't want to be too glib here. Life can be brutal. I mean, let's hold a moment for everyone who's lost a child, for everyone who's lost a partner or a spouse, for everyone who's lost their way, for everyone who's become addicted, for everyone who's been broken. For everyone who's lost something they felt was central to their vision of themselves and their lives. And let's understand that the resilience, the resourcefulness, some people, you knock them over twice and they stay down. Other people, you knock them down 8 times, they get up 9. What is that? What's the difference?